Chapter 11 in CIST 2531 covers gradients, blends, and patterns. We'll be looking at gradients. Gradients is a tool that you should be familiar with from CIST 1530 Web Graphics 1. Using the gradient tool in Illustrator is very similar to what we have in Photoshop. We do have some differences though. We'll start by looking at the gradient tool. So we have this selected here. You notice that over here you have your fill, appearances, and you have your gradient under properties. This is a place you can choose different types of gradients. You can choose a linear gradient, a radial gradient, or a freeform gradient. So we'll start with the linear gradient. And by clicking, we'll see that we have put the gradient into our graphic. And we're going to adjust the gradient by using the sliders on the image. You can double click on the slider points. This allows you to choose the different colors for the gradient. You can also use the color picker. So if you need to change the color. You can also use the values here to adjust the sliders in this. The opacity can also be changed from this direction, and also the location of your gradient sliders. Where is your gradient starting at? So this is one way you can work with gradients, and you can also click on the menu and choose the different types of color selections you can have. At the bottom, you have the plus symbol that you can click and let you create a new swatch so you can save that gradient. So you can quickly apply this to other options. You can also change the fill color in the appearance. Change the opacity here as well. You can adjust these by changing the options. Radial gradient is going to start in the center and come out. Once again, you can adjust the sliders, and you can adjust the way your image looks through this. You can also adjust the actual amount you can slide, so how much your radial gradient is affected with this as well. Your freeform gradient is going to give you these individual selections. Once again, you can double click those, make your color choices on these. So we can adjust the gradients on this. Now with this, you can also adjust the size, drag them to new locations. So you can use this to adjust the way your gradients are applied as well. If you go to Window and then down to Gradient, or use Control F9, this will bring up your gradient options here as well. In this, you can once again change the type of gradients that you have applied. You do have some preset gradients that you can apply. You can adjust the fill color for your gradients. You select the stroke and you have strokes applied. You can apply those here as well. You can also click on the color picker slider and adjust the amount of your gradient locations. This option here will let you choose the angle of your gradient. So if I want a gradient to be applied at 135 or negative 135, I can do that here as well. I can adjust the stops for my gradients on here as well. So working with gradients is very similar in Illustrator as what we did with Photoshop. You will notice that in your Chapter 11 Start 2, you do have a pattern set it off to the side, and you do have other patterns underneath this option here. Patterns you can use to resize. You can drag it in. We can copy this pattern. I'm going to go to edit and copy, and I'm going to paste this again. You see the patterns here. I can place this into new locations. So once you're finished with your chapter, or your assignments working with your different types of gradients, whether it is the radial, freeform, or the linear gradients. You also work with blended objects using the blend tools. So you'll be using the blend tool as well. Once you're finished with this, should be your final results for the chapter or the second project, the Start 2. This will be the ending file. You have a starting document here. And once you're finished with this for the end of 1, this is what your assignment will look like at the end of that chapter.